It's the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, we're looking at the upcoming NHL Draft first round 2024 prospects. The draft starts on Friday, June 28th at the Sphere in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll also take an in-depth look at the Detroit Red Wings free agency options and how Steve Yzerman will have to manipulate his roster to try and improve, but also to keep the assets he has. It could be a painful week for Red Wings fans, so we're going to try and make some sense of what options the Wings have. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team.
Well, the Stanley Cup stays in the States. We have the conclusion of the NHL hockey season. And now the Red Wings are on the clock. Once again, hello, my name's Andy Scheel. Very proud contributor to the Sports Peninsula podcast. We are going to talk some Red Wing hockey here. Pushing now that the 2023-2024 season has come to a close, we are going to turn our attention to the 2024-2025 season, and what we are hoping is a return to the playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs ourselves. But that is going to be something that we talk about with a wonderful contributor and founder, and the guy that really does a lot of the turning of the wrenches on this thing, Mr. Dave Druzinski. Drew, how are you doing this evening?
I'm great, Coach. I appreciate that. Thank you. But this was your brainchild, and we all know that. But thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm ready to talk some hockey, man. After that Stanley Cup final, man, that's pretty cool.
It really was, and we aren't going to spend too much time on that. We want to focus on the Red Wings here. But we had, obviously, Ken Holland was a dear member of this organization for a long, long time, did some amazing things here and hoisted that cup here. And, he walked into a nice situation in Edmonton. They have some good players there, namely, somebody that's definitely generational. And really they have more than one generational player on that roster. But that was, that's what it's, the NHL should be really, really happy. I mean, I think they got some good ratings. We went from a 3-0 to a 3-3. So, I mean, that was really, really good hockey. I think people, were once again, treated to something through that sport. And really, yeah, I mean, Connor McDavid did provide some of his thing, but I mean, it really wasn't about him so much. I mean, it was this, great climb back and the cultures, and you could just kind of sense the atmosphere. And there's a great hockey atmosphere in Sunrise, Florida as well. But kudos to the Florida Panthers. You are Stanley Cup champions. Drew, do you have any opening sentiments you'd like to kick off here before we get going?
Yeah, this is a draft preview / free agency preview for the Red Wings, and everything's so condensed, Coach, because Friday the draft starts in Vegas, and then July 1st, less than a week away on Monday, free agency opens. So it's bang, bang, bang. I mean, I actually feel poorly for Florida in the sense because their whole front office probably celebrated last night and today, and it's back to work. Nope, celebrate next week because you're not doing it now. You got a draft to do. I question the timing of that, but I mean, I guess things got to happen the way they happen. But yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it's going to be a fun week. But I brought that up because I think we needed to change the direction of our show in light of what happened today. And this is Tuesday the 25th. The Red Wings pulled off a couple trades today. One of them a prospect for a second round pick, Andrew Gibson. We'll talk about that. But then they made another trade, Coach, for a guy that is pretty popular here in Detroit. It's not being that well received, and that's Jake Wallman. And I think we're going to explain that a little bit. And again, I'm not necessarily justifying what happened. I'm just trying to explain why it probably did. And it's money. It's all about money. And that's just the way it goes. It's modern NHL. Modern NHL.
It certainly is. So I mean, and with that, being said, there's some kind of footprint here that is a little bit kind of scratching of the head with this move. But as you said, I mean, David, and what we know, and because we did not make the playoffs, we can say, hey, Jake Wallman, was a phenomenal contributor to this team. He was a big part of the core, and that's not a lie. And honestly, for the fans to be frustrated and puzzled and kind of low-browing this a little bit, that's I understand. I think anybody should understand, because on face value, this is puzzling. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like we're getting better through this move. But as you said here, Drew, we lack grit up front. We have to improve on the blue line and on the back end and responsibility and accountability and just overall play. And we have to have better starting goaltending and more consistency there. And we know that there's a long-term plan there. But by God, as Jake Wallman, he had 12 goals on a year that we did not make the playoffs. We still didn't make the playoffs. Andrew Gibson didn't contribute to this team making the playoffs this year. I know he was a second-round pick last year. But let's face it, we need to evolve. We still need to evolve. So these are the things that are going to take place. And they take place as we're going to allude to here in a few slides. This is part of the just modern NHL cap maintenance. This just happens. This is part of a cycle when this happens. So, Drew, take a look. What are your thoughts on the 2023-2024 season, Drew? What are your thoughts on that season, just in general?
Well, when you touch on the key needs for the team, and I'll go back to that, lack of grit up front, improve the defense. And then the first question is, you want to improve the defense so you get rid of one of your top four guys? I get it. And then starting goaltending needs to be shored up and certainly more consistent. Well, let's look at why would we say those things, Coach? Why would we think that? Well, again, the Wings finished 18th in points, so that's out of the playoffs. They were tied with 91 points, I believe, with Washington. And man, people were upset. The Red Wings won 41 games, which was a couple more than Washington, and yet Washington made the playoffs because they won more in regulation. Well, think about it. That's been the rule ever since they went to 3-on-3 overtime and shootout. Regulation wins are the first tiebreaker. And the reason why is you won in 5-on-5. Winning 3-on-3 hockey, that's great. You get your 2 points, which is awesome. You get it if you win shootout as well. However, let's be clear. You're not playing the same type of game 3-on-3 as you play 5-on-5. That's why you don't see that in the playoffs. It's 5-on-5 till someone scores. If it takes all night, it takes all night. They don't want that in the regular season. I get that. But that's why they didn't make the playoffs. Well, you know what? Things happen. There was games they should have won. They didn't. Whatever. Solid season, though, Coach. 9th in goals scored. Much improved offensively. Much improved. And that's a key. And then getting Patrick Kane certainly helped because he played 50 games for them and had 47 points. Nearly a point per game guy. That certainly helped. They were getting good offense even before that, but Kane made them that much better. So, again, that's a guy we're going to talk about in a little bit. 24th in goals against, however. So they had to give up a little to get a little. It paid off. They ended up scoring quite a bit more this year than they did last year. Yeah, they yielded more this year against, but they weren't. Again, they won more games, and it worked. But that's why I'm saying, and you're saying, we need better starting goaltending because you got to, and then obviously stronger defense. It's not just about the goaltending. I think the goaltending was pretty good considering there were a lot of defensive lapses. Scotty Bowman always said, Coach, I remember when he was in Detroit, he said, if your power play percentage and your penalty kill percentage add up to 100 or more, you're in good shape and probably a playoff team. I think that's 102.66. I'm just putting that together, but I've been studying these numbers a little bit. That's good. 9th in power play and then middle of the pack in penalty kill, 14th. That you'll take that all day. Their special teams were outstanding. Now, Jake Wallman, Shane Gostisbehere, and Patrick Kane had a huge part in that. All free agents this year. 19th in save percentage. Middle of the pack, slightly below average. 89.7 is about average. So at the end of the day, they were solid, but pedestrian defensively and in goal. But they weren't clutch defensively or in the goal all the time. And that was a problem. But here's the biggest issue with all these stats is that last one, 23rd in shots taken. Coach, I know our viewers might not have heard, maybe some of you have, but I know coaches hadn't heard me rant. Shoot the puck. Quit screwing around. Put it on net. I mean, I know playoff hockey is different from regular season hockey, but I saw what happened in Game 7. Florida put the puck on the net, a shot going 3 feet wide, and Carter Verhey goes, dink, thank you, goes 5-hole. Put it on net and things will happen. It doesn't have to always look like the Michigan by her in 98. It doesn't always have to be tic-tac-toe. Wow, I'm mesmerized by the passing. It doesn't have to be a top shelf goal knocking the water bow into the 5th row. Just get it in the net. So you can see they are a talented team, but they're very, very methodical and they throw the puck around a lot, which is great. When you have the talent to do that, it's awesome. There's a time and place for it. It's not every time you get the puck in your opponent's zone. Sometimes you got to score ugly. They got to learn to score ugly. They got to learn to be kind of ugly to play against, Coach. We brought up the first thing was they need to get gritty up front, be tougher to play against. If you're the opposing coach, I'm on your staff, I'm telling the guys, you know what? Run Larkin, dump and chase that puck and just smash their defense, make them have to get rid of the puck in a hurry, and I dare them to do something about it. I dare you to do something about it. Now, maybe they get you on the power play. That's a pretty good percentage. If they can get you on the power play, well, okay, I can't get as physical. They were good on the power play, but too often, Coach, we saw them play like Ottawa and Boston and Dallas, for instance, or Tampa. How many times is Dylan Larkin going to get shots taken at him? But they never made the opposition pay in those situations. And who's going to drop the glove? And it's not about dropping the glove. They got to pull that back. That was the old way. And that's what I know our generation, we're used to Bobby Probert and Joey Koster taking care of business. And after them, D-Mac, right? It's not that way anymore. However, you can get guys that are absolute menaces, throw their body in the checks, finish their checks, maybe take some liberties after the play, a little face washing, a little agitation. Brad Marchand's made a possible Hall of Fame career out of it. But we need guys like that, like Dallas Drake was, like Kirk Maltby was, like Chris Draper was, just tenacious. Like Draper wasn't going to get too physical with you, but he'd finish checks. And he was fast. He was on the puck. He made you make mistakes. He forced the issue. They don't have enough guys that do that. They have very skilled players. They have some goal scorers now. They've got a solid defense, but they got to improve in those 3 areas. And I totally agree with you on all those points, Coach. But yeah, that's where it comes from. There's the data.
Yeah. 24th in goals against. That's not how you have more regulation wins than somebody else, you know?
No, definitely not. Exactly. That's a great point.
Well said, Drew. But, on with it. The 2023-2024 season was for the Florida Panthers. So, and not for the Detroit Red Wings. So it's on to 2024-2025 and on. We've got a lot of good things happening at the goaltending position down the road. We've got a very good blueprint for that. We have one that's coming up real soon that's percolating. That's really, really a big, big in size and stature prospect. And we have the top, junior American goaltender, and Trey Augustine, is also in our pipeline. And he is the top junior American. He's the best goaltender in America, sub 21 years old.
He's a good one.
And he's at Michigan State right now and, Team USA player. So we're good there. We know that we have some big and, talented kids that are defensemen that are probably playing this year for the Detroit Red Wings. There is the outside chance that we see some of our younger forwards start interjecting. Grand Rapids is getting to be, somewhat of a seasoned place. Toledo has a more veteran feel to it. But, we're going to be looking at some things here that we need to kind of bring some reality to, which I think are going to bring the Jake Wallman trade especially into focus here. And, can the Red Wings retain their restricted free agents and unrestricted free agents? By rights, they're going to be able to really have a great say in the restricted guys.
Yeah.
But with the unrestricted guys, that's a different story. Who is ready? Who's one of these prospects that's coming up? Because we're going to have some. We're going to have some that are coming up through the ranks. And who, if we are able to, with the cap space that we have, should we pursue after the 1st of July, the unrestricted free agent market? Well, Drew, it's time to find some of these answers, my friend.
I'm sure as hell going to try, Coach, with your help. I mean, I'm trying to make sense of it myself, and I've been going over this last couple of weeks leading up to this, the draft and what have you. I was personally surprised Wallman got traded. But when we talk about can the Red Wings retain their restricted and unrestricted free agents, Steve Yzerman told us yesterday in his press conference, the answer is no. Several players will not be Red Wings next year. I didn't think that was Jake Wallman then, but it's unfortunate, but it is what it is right now. So there'll be others, and I'm not sure who, but we're going to talk about them shortly. And who's ready to join the big club? Here's another very important fact. Albert Johansson signed a 3-year contract, a two-way deal, but it's a waiver exempt contract, which means he would have to clear waivers if he's demoted. So guess what? Albert Johansson's a Detroit Red Wing next year, and he will be starting. He's not going to be the 7th defenseman. He's going to be one of the top 6. So they must think a hell of a lot of Albert Johansson, who I'll admit to you, Coach, I know of him certainly, and I've seen his statistics. I've read the reports. I haven't seen a ton of him. We've seen a lot of Simon Edmondson, who, by the way, folks, will be on the team. And you say, well, he was there last year at the end, Drew. That's because Jake Wallman wasn't. He was hurt. He missed most of the last month and a half of that season. And Justin Hall was a healthy scratch. So that's why Edmondson got to play, and he showed out for himself. He played in playoff caliber level hockey games at the end of that season. They played Tampa Bay. They played Washington. Even though they were playing Montreal last 2 games, they had to win those games. Those were must-win games, and they did. And he was a big part of that. So he got a lot of ice time. Great experience for him. But yeah, Shane Gostisbehere, restricted free agent. I don't see how he stays, Coach. When we look at the dollars, I like Gostisbehere, but we need to understand he was -16 last year. And he scored, I believe, 32 points on the power play, which is outstanding. But if you think about it, when you score 32 of your 52 points on the power play, it means you only had 20 and 5-on-5, and you're a -16. Ouch. So again, I like him, but they're just not in the.
We did not win with Shane Gostisbehere, unfortunately. Yeah, he had some exciting plays, and it was a lot of fun to watch, and did some things too, and helped us win some games. Didn't say that that's not to say that wasn't the case, but we did not make the playoffs with him. And like you had said, that -16 kind of leads to that 24th in goals against. So let's take a look at some of these numbers, Drew. Let's kind of take a look at where we kind of stand, and let's make a little more sense of maybe what we did today here. What you have here, folks, is anybody you see in yellow is a restricted free agent right now. These are players that the Red Wings have rights to first. They can match any offer that any of these players receive and be able to retain their rights automatically. So the guys in yellow are going to probably be Detroit Red Wings next year, unless they decide to move on from them or not match an offer. The players listed here in red are unrestricted free agents. That is, they can sign anywhere they please, free and clear, here from this point forward, starting July 1st. So you see the list. We talked about Shane Gostisbehere. We go into the on the defense. We go into the forward positions. And you look at Dave Perron, Christian Fischer, Daniel Sprong, Austin Zarnik, Matt Loof. We have Patrick Kane. These are all unrestricted free agents. Not all of these players, Drew, are coming back, are they?
No, they're not, Coach. And here's the reason why. In the bottom right here, the free agent salary. So basically down the middle here, folks, free agents 2024, their salary in the middle here, that's what they physically are paid. That's $31.35 million in salary for those free agents. Now, that's a big number. Now, here's the thing. When you look on above that to the right in green, the cap is at $88 million. Now, the Red Wings currently, or at least before the Wallman and Gibson trades, were at $61.2 million spent. So they have $26.8 million in cap space. So that's why I know people are saying, what the hell? You had $26.8 million in cap space. Why did you have to shed cap dollars by trading Jake Wallman? Okay, great question. And I would hope that's why people are upset, because they don't understand the finance behind it. But let's take a look at it. Here, the biggest issues right now are the restricted free agents, and we've all known about them. Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider that you see in the middle. Now, Raymond's cap hit last year was $3.43 million. We're expecting, and again, I'm overestimating probably here, Coach, just to be on the safe side, but we're expecting them to possibly have to pay him $7 million a year to keep him a Red Wing long term. Okay, if they can get him for less, awesome. That's great. But that's what I'm seeing. Moritz Seider, let's go down there. He was only at $1.78 million last year. Now, I'll tell you what, before the season, I was thinking this guy's going to get close to a max deal if he's a Norse candidate. Well, Moritz Seider had a very good season last year, and he's clearly their best defenseman. He's not quite there offensively like we would have hoped yet, but I still think there's a whole lot of potential there to possibly grow into that role too, Coach. But it could cost $8 million a year to keep Mo Seider. So now you take roughly, say, $5.2 million, and now it turns into 15. So you just, of that 26.2, well, now it's down to 16.2. Now let's talk about the next big hitter, the elephant in the room, Patrick Kane. Now, he was brought in at $2.75 million on a one-year deal last year. He played 50 games, scored 47 points. Point per game guy. Now, I get he's 35. Bottom line, if you're going to get a guy that's going to score at that level for the next 2 or 3 years, I'm estimating it's going to cost you about $7 million. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's a little lower than that. I think it's going to be around there. Now, when you factor that in, you just added another $4 million to your cap. Wow, for three players, it's growing exponentially. Okay, now let's look at the next guy, Gostisbehere. We keep seeing let him walk. Well, his cap hit was $4.13 million last year. With his offensive performance and the fact that we know he has defensive liabilities, but we also know, Coach, and I'm going to go to a split screen here. We also know about Gostisbehere. He's a defensive liability, but if you pair him with in the right situation, you can cover up for that. The Red Wings weren't able to do that very well in 5-on-5 last year, which hurt them, which is why statistically he was defensively, he didn't look good at all. Offensively, he looked really good. But you've got to make decisions here. He's likely going to get close to $5-6 million, at least for a one-year deal with a team this year. I'm anticipating. So that's where it's like, it's going to be tough, but now it's going to get even tougher. Let's take a closer look here.
Well, and then just to add a couple things too. I mean, this is where metrics comes in as well, and data analytics. And there are proponents of it and there are opponents of it. The natural feel for the game and the dynamics of hockey may not really translate into the data and the analytics sometimes. And data and analytics can be, very linear in their approach. Understand that. However, they are as true fact and as accurate as you possibly can get in making an informed decision on your players. And yeah, Shane Gostisbehere, a guy like Shane Gostisbehere, and really for that matter, probably Jake Wallman to a certain degree, they really had some juicier offensive numbers. Wallman really statistically for the games that he did play was very, very good. And Shane Gostisbehere was certainly offensively on the power play. But like you said, you take that away, and he's probably one of the more meager defensemen in the game. So that's where these decisions get made. You start separating some of those statistics and splitting some of those statistics. Now, I have not done any deep dives on the Jake Wallman. I understand fully and wholeheartedly the fans' feelings with this, and I sit with them on that. However, I don't, go against Steve Yzerman's decision to make this move. There is an ulterior motive to it. Just asking you real quick, Drew, before we move to the next slide, what's the likelihood that those numbers in the retention area of your free agent 2024, right in the middle of the screen there, folks, where you're starting to see 3.0 for Dave Perron, 7 for the Kaner, 7 for Lucas Raymond, 8 for Sider, so on and so forth.
Yep.
What's the likelihood that number is a bit high? Like, is there a possibility there could be $1 million or $2 million savings from those numbers right there if those were the players that we went after?
Yeah, and that's why I really overestimated. To just let's be on the safe side here. Let's not.
You overestimated, which was wise on your part, because what does Steve Yzerman like to have in cap space typically?
About 3 to 5, say $4 million roughly.
So really, did you really do that? Because yes, there may be some savings in those numbers. However, that savings is going to be savings. that is going to be what it's there for.
Yeah.
So, folks, the Jake Wallman trade, albeit frustrating, we want a better hockey team. We want to be back we want to be Sunrise, Florida once again. Here in Detroit, one of the greatest hockey markets in the world, and we're starving for a champion, and we've got some other things going on. We understand that, but this is the deal here. We're not making solid contact yet into the playoffs. We need to do some roster changing, and that may hurt at times. Like what did today. Any other thoughts before we move forward, Drew?
Yeah, just a quick blow it up again here, Coach, just to kind of wrap it up. But when you look at the bottom right here, folks, before the Wallman trade and before the Andrew Gibson trade, which we need to talk about, they, based on the estimated retention of these players, and that's with Perron taking a pay cut. That's the only way Dave Perron stays. I love him. I really do. I think he's great, but you can't pay him $4.75 million next year. He didn't put up the statistics for that, and he's not getting any younger. But we definitely want to keep. That's why I said $3 million. But bottom line, by trading Wallman and trading Andrew Gibson, who was a second-round pick last year, the Red Wings gained $4.3 million in cap space today. Now, if everything holds true here on this page, at least they're below the cap. It's only by $250,000, Coach. Which, what does that mean? Someone else is going to go. I don't know who. It could be Christian Fischer. Maybe he's one they don't bring back. I anticipated bring him back. Don't think Sprong's coming back. Reimer's not coming back. And so bottom line, they're going to make another move likely. The one of the players they got for in the Wallman deal, I believe, was Jesse Kiskinen. And he was actually drafted last year about 26 spaces below Andrew Gibson. So they traded prospect for prospect, basically, and got a second-round pick out of that deal with Nashville. And then they turned around and traded Wallman plus the second-round pick to San Jose for future considerations, Coach. And, basically, what that means is it was a salary dump. But they had to throw in the pick so that San Jose likely was going to say, maybe you need to keep $1 or $2 million of that. That's not what they could do. Now, why did they do it? Is it to keep Kane? That's the question. Is it to go after someone else? Well, it might be. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll bring those up now.
Yeah. Well, let's move forward into some of the juice. This is the fun. These are the tasty parts of the steak here to chew on. And Barry Sanders here, the Boston Terriers, also may chime in here. He's wanting to do this episode for quite some time, Drew. So he hasn't left the studio. So
Yeah,
apologize if you hear Barry. He's making sure that everybody's pulling in just fine. But getting back to it here, we have a featured. It's been a while since we've had a star, here for the Red Wings. Dylan Larkin has been our star. He's been a very, very good player. However, we're talking about, maybe the elite level player, and Steve Yzerman was able to bring him in this year in the form of Patrick Kane. So, I mean, he has been a joy. We didn't care for him when he was a Chicago Blackhawk. That was not something that we really liked very much. And honestly, my heart softened for him when he went and played for the Rangers last year. I kind of changed my tune. And then when he came here, it's been great. It's great. We had AP a couple years ago with the Lions. Okay. Adrian Peterson played for the Lions, played the Lions for a year.
Yeah.
One of the greatest running backs of NFL history. We have had, guys like Tracy McGrady and Allen Iverson dress as Detroit Pistons. Chris Webber and Derek Coleman dress as Detroit Pistons.
Mike
we can get into that kind of talk, and a lot. It's been a while since we've had that kind of player here. I guess since Adrian Peterson, but to the level of Patrick Kane, and for it to be the Detroit Red Wings and, another iconic player to wear, this uniform. A guy that's only played for Original Six teams in his career. It was a joy. It was a joy. And that certainly is a possibility, Drew, that he returns. Like you said, he had 47 points in 52 games.
Or 54. It's 47 and 50.
47 and 50.
Yep.
So we're talking, statistically, really more productive than Steven Stamkos. To a certain degree, 81 and 80, that's point per game. But you're looking, okay, with Marchessault, Jake Guentzel, he's definitely in that ballpark, maybe even a nose above it. So I mean, this is the elite player. Do you think Patrick Kane is coming back to the Detroit Red Wings?
I think it's still a possibility. I think it's still actually. I would. If I had to place odds on it, and I don't have any inside information, but I would put it at 50-50. Reason why, now I read something, I'm not going to, it's not really necessarily from an inside source or whatever, but that's something they are talking, Yzerman and his agent, and he wants a 3-year deal. I kind of figured that. He's 35. He'll be 38, almost 39 at the end of that deal, and then that's likely it. So this is his last deal. Apparently, the rumor was that Yzerman offered a 1-year deal. Whatever. You start, you ask high, you bid low, you find yourself in the middle. But I think there's a lot going here. One, he played here before. He was with the U.S. developmental program in Plymouth here, and he knows the area well. Alex DeBrincat and him are very, very, very close. Their families are close. They have excellent chemistry out there, and that's a big reason I think we all want him back. I mean, I'm not expecting Pavel Datsyuk, who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame today, and so congratulations to Pavel Datsyuk, fantastic player. Talk about a two-way player, 200 feet of ice, Selke trophies, Lady Bings, but he also wasn't putting up the point totals Patrick Kane has. He was about a point per game guy, Pavel Datsyuk, immensely talented. Patrick Kane's a wizard on offense. Defensively, you're not going to get that out of him, and you know that. Steven Stamkos, he's like a year younger coach. Now there's a chance there. I don't know, but we can talk about other guys. But Patrick Kane, I think, is 50-50.
So let's go right on the line. And we've got 4. These are the 4 biggest point getter forwards. Okay, we're talking about getting. We've kind of the defensive, as we saw in the previous slides. Really, even with the Woolman trade, the defensive, the blue liners for the Detroit Red Wings are kind of locked in.
Yeah.
We do have some elasticity here and some potential to make some change among the forwards. It bodes more for the Detroit Red Wing Hockey Club, the big league club, to have some different faces in there, potentially. potentially. It's good, like you said, there's a lot of doings for it, and it means probably the guy at the top of the screen won't be back if one of these other four were involved. But let's go right down the line. Steven Stamkos, intimate relationship with, from a hockey relationship, that is, with Steve Yzerman. You know, he was, you know, he's been a huge part of all the dynasty era that we have known for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm still a point a game guy at 81 points here, 23-24, age 34. And you say it's 50-50 with Patrick Kane. What do you say it is for Steve Stamkos? And what kind of a deal do you see coming this way?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the Red Wings were very much in the mix, if you recall, when he was a free agent, before he signed his last deal. And Steve Yzerman had to make a tough choice there. He signed Stamkos, so he wanted to stay. And he kept Victor Hedman, but he let Bishop walk, the goaltender. And, you know, because he couldn't keep him all. That sucks. Talk about trading Jake Wallman. Try letting Ben Bishop walk. But he drafted Vasilevsky. So I guess my hope is, as a fan, is that, well, I trust Yzerman's eye for talent. I mean, if Albert Johansson wasn't ready to play on this team and contribute significantly, there's no way he would have signed him to that deal, and he would not have traded Jake Wallman. I firmly believe that. So as we're talking, I'm kind of I'm literally thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, Steven Stamkos, obviously, like you said, that professional bond there, he does have a relationship with Yzerman, and Detroit would be in the mix. I mean, hell, he'd fit in very nicely. I mean, and with his game, he's a little better defensive, a little more responsible defensively than Kane. I think I think he's a safer signing in that regard versus Kane, but at the same time, I think he's going to cost a little more. I don't think he shouldn't expect to be at $8.5 million a year anymore because of his age. Now, the productivity's there. He had 41 goals. This dude can put the puck in the net, and they need that. So I think there's a chance. Let's call it 30%, Coach. I mean, there's other teams who'd love to have him. They can't afford him. Detroit would be possibly one of them. Tampa can't. I don't believe Tampa can do it. They're going to have to part ways. You talk about making a tough decision. They're going to have to let Steven Stamkos walk.
Kind of the end of almost kind of feels like almost the end of the era, sort of, for Tampa. I mean, so to speak. They're going to kind of have to maybe shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, retool a bit. Yep, you're right.
Let's stay in the Sunshine State. Let's go right down to Sunrise, Florida. And for the 2024 Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers and one of their premier players. I mean, Tkachuk kind of is the darling to a certain degree, but I mean, there are many that would say that this young man is. And Sam Reinhart, he's still in his 20s. Yeah. So we're talking about a guy that's going to look for one of these 7-8 year deals, likely. And he's putting the output that's going to kind of demand that. So we're looking at probably what, David, an 8-year, $72 million contract type player here.
Yeah, that's $9 million a year. I think that's probably about right. Now, I've got him on here because obviously you should be kicking the tires. And if you get a Sam Reinhart, you can make room. Now, what I don't know, Coach, is like you say, you look at face value, a team's cap situation. Florida, actually, on paper, I want to say they're very close to where Detroit is in terms of cap space, believe it or not. Well, if you retain a Sam Reinhart, about half of that's gone right now. And you can't necessarily afford to let 4 other quality players leave to keep one. And it's sad. It's mathematics, right? When back in the day, it was sign who you want and off we go, but it's not like that. So they have to make tough decisions. So I don't personally know the Florida cap situation as intimately as I know the Red Wing one. Because of SpotTrack.com, thank you very much. And I got their premium subscription now, so I'm getting to see some more stuff, Coach. I don't blame them for charging for it because everyone and their mother, including us, references them, and so good for them. But yeah, Sam Reinhart, I think that's a long shot for the Red Wings, but I don't think it's an impossibility. But I wanted to list them on here because what these guys all have in common on this screen right now is that they're all the top 5 points per game guys in free agency this year, and they're all in play. But Reinhardt's a bit of a launch shot, but boy, you'd like to have a guy like that.
Oh man, Oh man, now that would set old Hockey Town. The lights would be all on for that one. That would be, and they will be anyway. I mean, if Steve Stamkos becomes a Red Wing, I mean, right away they'll be the talk of the town. And I think there'd be a lot of soothing if Pat Kane is retained. But if Sam Reinhart comes, I mean, that would be kind of Steve Yzerman really kind of like turn the league on its ear a little bit. So I mean, hey, stranger things have happened, especially in NHL free agency. There have been some really crazy things that have happened. But staying, the course on a guy that's been a winner, a guy that's that's been winning for quite some time over in VGK land over in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And that's, Jonathan Marchessault, age 33. Now we're talking about a player that puts up in the area of a Dylan Larkin in regards to points. A similar player to Dylan Larkin. Now, is this a little bit more of a cost-effective star signing here, Drew?
Yeah, and that might not only make more sense, but it might be the only true path this year. If you want to get
a great defensive player here, this is a winner. This is a guy that can. This is a metric player, a player that's going to aid in winning.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's a great two-way player, and puts the puck in the net. I mean, like you said, Dylan Larkin like numbers. Yeah, I mean that's if you get that out of Marchessault. Now I don't know what kind of term that. It probably is more like a $6 million a year term. Maybe to get him a little lower. I don't know. It's possible. But I'm guessing it's probably $6 million. So he will be cheaper than Kane, I think. He'll definitely be cheaper than Stamkos and Reinhart. I think that he's a very viable option. I would say Kane is 50-50. I would put Marchessault probably right the same thing. I think they got a real good shot at going after him. I don't think Vegas can keep him. And but we'll see, obviously. But I think he's definitely in play.
Jake Guentzel, still to hit the age of 30. Guess he'll do that next season, right?
Mm-hmm.
77 points. So we're talking about a point a game guy here. Give us some background on why you think he may be a good Red Wing fit. Yeah,
Carolina's interesting. Their cap situation, they've got space. And it's a situation where I'm going to reference their space. They're right where the Red Wings are too. But again, they've got to make tough decisions. They make a trade for Guentzel because he was on an expiring contract because they're trying to make a cup push. Great addition, but they've got some decisions to make there. They've got guys that are going to be free agents soon or restricted free agents. They're going to have to come up with dough for, and it's going to be a tough one. But I think Guentzel's probably going to be like a $7.5 to $8 million contract. So I think he's probably Reinhart's the longest shot. Guentzel's probably under him then in terms of how I'm thinking. I think they're in play there, but I think it just depends on fit. But he's got to be mentioned because he's a very good player. But I think truly their best chance on this board is Kane. And then Stamkos a very, very close second, pretty much right with Kane. I think those two are likely. But Marchessault also has a very good shot. And if you're going to go a different route, I said 60% chance. That's because he's not quite the same guy. He's not the point per game guy that you're getting in Stamkos and Kane. But at the same time, you're getting a very, very quality forward who can help you offensively, who's going to play some defensive hockey too. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what Yzerman's able to do and willing to do, Coach.
Drew, in the movie Hoosiers, Coach Dale goes out in the sycamore trees out in the shooter's place in the woods, and they have themselves a real talk. One time. We're going to have that right now ourselves. So it was 50-50 that Pat Kane comes back to the Detroit Red Wings.
Yep.
We had 5 faces on that slide.
Yeah.
Are the odds 50-50 for all of them? You think there's a 50-50 chance we're getting one of those guys?
No, when I say
I know what you said, but do you think that could be do you think he'll be that aggressive that we have that good of a chance to get one of those guys?
I think if they're going to make the playoffs next year, they have to
have one of those players.
They need one of those guys to make the playoffs next year. They have to have that. They have to have that sniper. If not, I tell you what, you bet all these young guys. And I get excited about him too, Coach. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not expecting Carter Mazur to be a 40-goal scorer as soon as he hits.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Maybe I don't have that gut feel yet though. So no, and again, that's why I'm saying if they want to make the playoffs next year, not a desperation, because they wouldn't put themselves in cap trouble by doing this.
No, because we're gonna have great cap space next year. So I mean, we add a piece to this in a smart way. We can compound on top of that, and then you do have the Carter Mazurs and the Nate Danielsons.
Yes,
and our young Swedish forward that I know, Palka, that I'm very excited about.
Oh, the
down the road. Now I'm talking about down the road.
Yeah, Sandin Pellikka, the defenseman. Oh yeah. Oof.
So I mean, let's take a deep breath here. We're in the land of rebuilding. Okay, Michigan Central just opened, and we're still in the land of rebuilding. We're rebuilding the Red Wings. We're rebuilding the Tigers. We're maybe forever rebuilding the Detroit Pistons.
We hope not.
The Lions are built. But and we do a lot of Lions football. But here with the Red Wings, we aren't there yet. And we are still getting there. Fair to say, Drew? Yeah,
very fair to say, Coach. And I would never, and I don't believe, and Steve Yzerman has flat out said this, he's not going to sell out just to make the playoffs for a season. He's not going to do that. I mean, honestly, when I look at the cap situation, and if they weren't to get one of those guys, Coach, which I would understand, it's probably not going to be as good of a season next year as the year before. And then you're going to start hearing a lot of chirping from people. Understandably, they haven't, this is the longest stretch of time the Red Wings haven't made the playoffs since the 1970s. And that was the longest in their team's history. So right now, if they don't make the playoffs next year, you're looking at the longest stretch of time for the Detroit Red Wings to not make the playoffs in their history. Now, obviously, it was a 6-team league for many years, so it didn't happen often. But we got a generation of fans out there that haven't seen a Red Wing playoff game. We can relate. We can relate.
There's some pressure here. There's clearly some pressure on making this team better, faster. And there's a lot of other variables too. Newsy, he's back. Derek Lalonde and staff. There were times I know you and I were texting and discussing at times, is this the right guy? And that could be something that's changed one day. One day it will be, but how soon that is, we shall see. It does not appear that we are making any blockbuster trades, but I guess that'd be the one thing I would ask you before we segue on and close this one out into our two-part series about the Red Wings 2024 summer plans when we get into the draft in our next recording. But do you see, and we didn't even discuss that, this would be something to throw out your way, and I don't mean to throw this into you. Maybe this is something that's better talked about in another episode.
No,
you see it out of the nowhere massive big trade that we have not even thinking about?
One thing that came to mind, Coach, that because I had actually talked about it on the original sports podcast with Chops and his crew, because they'd mentioned Noah Hannafin, defenseman. Well, right now the pipeline's full and there's no roster space at this point, and that's including letting Gostisbehere walk. Could they say buy out Justin Hull, add another $2 million to the cap, not re-sign David Perron for $3 million, and go out and get Noah Hannafin, and then maybe Marco Kasper? Now you're a Red Wing. Joe Veleno, or maybe you move to a wing, or maybe Veleno moves to a wing or whatever, and off we go. Elmer Soderblom will be a Red Wing next year. So that's a possibility. As far as trades go, though, I don't think they'll be able to, but there's a possibility. If you look at it, here's a situation. What if you packaged, because we just saw Linus Ullmark get traded to the Ottawa Senators for a center and another goaltender. My names escape me at the moment, but I was thinking, what if you would have said, here's Justin Hall and Ville Husso? I don't know if that would have worked or not. I'm not sure. It just throwing it out there. I don't know the guys you'd like to trade. Well, there's a reason you want to trade them. You know, I like Andrew Kopp. Don't get me wrong, but he's overpaid for what he's giving in terms of productivity offensively at like $5.7 million a year, or $5.2 million a year. You're not going to trade Andrew Kopp. You'd like to trade Justin Hall, but he's at $3.4 million, just like Jake Wallman. Well, there's a reason Jake Wallman got traded, not Justin Hall. If you're San Jose, who do you want? You know, that's an easy one there for me too. I don't know. I'd be very surprised that they did something like that, because I don't see the path. But you know, I don't know everything. I could be very wrong. So, but that's my take on it.
Yeah. And you know, hey, I mean, that's the fun of it all, right? You know, sometimes the off season is more fun than the regular season because it's all the speculation. Well, folks, this has been a great episode. You know, getting into some different things, talking a little Red Wing hockey here, plenty to be excited about. And in those playoff days where, whether we get a Stanley Cup anytime soon, that there will be some luck involved with that. But the playoffs are coming. We will get there once again. But we're going to take another look at some Red Wing hockey here at the Sports Peninsula podcast in our next episode, which will feature some more content on the Red Wings regarding to the draft preview that is this Friday, June 28th. So we have some more hockey that you'll be hearing from us in the future, among other things. There's phenomenal boxing content. Drew, there is a vacation of the International Boxing Federation Heavyweight Championship that was purchased. Mr. Usyk is not going to hold that belt anymore. I imagine you'll be talking about that in the future, among other things. If you like what you heard today, we're an in-depth, very journalistic, magazine type look into things. We like to get a little bit deeper into the facts and data for you. Give us a like and a subscription here with the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Andy Scheel. This has been David Drzezinski, Drew, and we will see you soon.
This has been the Sports Peninsula podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel's homepage and give us a like. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPodcast to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for watching and for your support. Remember, when you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula podcast.